how the United States will engage with the future government in Lebanon. I'm joined by two guests. Firas Maksad serves on the board of the Lebanon Renaissance Foundation, an organization that works to strengthen democracy in Lebanon. And Fawaz Gerges is a Middle East scholar and the author of the forthcoming book, Understanding Arab Politics. Thanks to both of you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Dr. Gerges, let me start with you. We don't have official results yet, although one of the coalitions is claiming victory. And even if the other coalition, the Hizbullah-led coalition, does not win outright, there will be some elements of Hizbullah in a future government. How do you think Washington will respond to that?
Well, I think Obama officials are relieved tonight because Hezbollah has not gained a majority in the Lebanese parliament. It seems to me that early results indicate that the Al-Hariri coalition basically will likely maintain a slimmer lead in the parliament, about a dozen of seats or so. But I think one point must be made very clear tonight. I think the morning after, that's today in Lebanon, little has changed in Lebanon. The Lebanese remain deeply divided, and I think it would be very short-sighted on the part of our government here in Washington to underestimate either the reach or the power of Hezbollah. Hezbollah remains one of the most powerful institutions in Lebanon, even though Hezbollah does not have a majority in the Lebanese parliament, because General Aoun, the ally of Hezbollah, General Aoun is a Maronite Christian. Obviously, many Christian voters basically turned away from General Aoun because of his alliance with Hezbollah and his visit to Syria and so on and so forth. But the reality in Lebanon, Hezbollah remains a critical force in Lebanese politics for many years to come.
Firas Maksad, as we heard Dr. Gerges say there, that Hezbollah remains a critical force in Lebanese politics. Do you think the United States will continue to adopt the same policy that it has in the past, branding this organization an international terrorism group?
Well, let me first start by disagreeing with Dr. Gerges. I absolutely think that Hezbollah is an important group that you just can't go around in Lebanon. But let's stop here and see what we have. We have, for the first time, based on an electoral law that enjoys consensus in the country, a pro-Western, relatively moderate group seizing power through elections in the Middle East. I think that deserves a moment of pause to consider because it is a historic event. In terms of numbers, in fact, the numbers that have been coming out thus far point to a 71-seat victory for the March 14th coalition, compared to 57 to Hezbollah and its allies. That is actually not only maintaining the lead that March 14th had since the 2005 theater revolution, but actually adding on to that. So I think that's going to be viewed as a significant victory in Washington. Now, to your question as to how the administration would react to that, I think it'd be no surprise that they're going to be treated very warmly and going to be very happy with it. I think they were going to look into the cabinet composition and what the cabinet program is going to be. There's no doubt it's going to include some ministers from Hezbollah.
May I add one point here?
Sure, but if I can complete this, I think it's going to be about there's a cabinet veto right, sort of the 1/3 plus 1 of cabinet seats that have been a problematic issue before, and Hezbollah actually launched a military assault on Beirut about a year and a half ago because of that. So I think everybody's going to be looking to see how that's going to be settled.
May I add? I think I'm surprised you say that today's elections are a historic landmark. Obviously, the previous elections, the pro-Al-Hariri camp had a majority. In fact, the Al-Hariri camp has formed the government since 2005, as you well know. And I think it's still, Al-Hariri camp, the pro-Western camp, has a majority, as it has had since 2005. What I'm talking about, I'm talking about the complex reality of Lebanese politics. The complex realities of Lebanese politics says that Hezbollah cannot be cancelled out, that Hezbollah is a power to be reckoned with, that even though the Shiite community in Lebanon is a majority community, more than the largest community in Lebanon is Shiite, as you all know, Firas. But the balance of power, that the Shiite community is not assigned its fair share in the parliament. And my point here, even though regardless of what we think of Hezbollah, I think what I'm trying to suggest here is that to read the election as a defeat for Hezbollah is to underestimate and to have a distorted view of Lebanese politics. Lebanese politics, the Lebanese government, Lebanon cannot be governed. Lebanon cannot be governed except by a consensus government. Social harmony and stability in Lebanon demand that the Lebanese, divided as they are, come together in a government. And as you well know, Firas, the Doha Agreement regulated Lebanese politics and gave the opposition a veto power. I expect the new government to have a similar composition, giving the opposition a veto power as well.
Well, I think you make a couple of good points here, but just in terms of the pure facts, there hasn't been a popular census in Lebanon since 1932 because the issue is very politically sensitive. But the closest thing that we have to determining the numbers of the different communal groups is actually the registration rolls. And the registration rolls in 2005 and now in 2009 show a very slight majority for Sunnis, with about 26.7% of the electorate, and Shias coming in right after with about 26.4%. So I'm not too sure about the numbers and about the Shia majority. But I want to agree with you. I want to agree with you, Dr. Gerges, that Lebanon is a very unique country in terms of its communal makeup. You really cannot have a stable government unless everybody's involved. The question here is whether the multi-communal coalition on both sides, whether you're going to have a victor that's going to govern and an opposition party that's going to keep them in check, or whether you're going to have the Doha Agreement, which you referred to, continue to exist. The March 14th would argue that the Doha Agreement is not a constitution. It was only a temporary agreement based on.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you at all. I wish, as a person, as a Democrat, I wish that Lebanon could be governed the same way that France and Britain and the United States do. Lebanon, I mean, we're talking about the realities of Lebanese politics. The realities of Lebanese politics, if the Al-Hariri coalition will insist on governing on its own, you're going to have basically a civil war in Lebanon. I assure you that. Because Lebanon almost came to the brink, as you well know, that a civil war and the Doha Agreement, as a result.
We are in agreement. Nobody can govern Lebanon by themselves, including the Hariri cabinet.
Absolutely.
The question is, how many cabinet seats will the other side be given? Will they be given a veto or not?
That's where we're going to have to leave it. That's where we've run out of time. Dr. Gerges, Firas Maksad, thanks for joining us.
A pleasure.